Caught a few snatches of the new metal seminar there yesterday.
Okay.
Were there any results worthy of note?
Well, I think the worthy results are not going to come from me. I think they will hopefully come from, the reaction from the kids, and I think that was the main thing. I mean, like I said yesterday, a lot of these seminars a lot of times end up being just sort of people in the business and sort of, want to be, musicians and stuff and sit and talk about themselves for hours and so forth. And I think yesterday we tried to sort of make it more of a thing for the kids and the people that buy the records and so forth. And I think hopefully if they got something out of it, those are the good results. And I mean, for me it was just obviously fun to sit and talk about a few things for a couple of hours, and I thought it went very well. I think the best result was that no one actually left early, which I think, was the best sort of measure of what really went on and so forth.
What will have the kids got out of it?
I don't know. Ask the kids. I mean, I would hope that they would, just sort of get a sort of insight to how, just various opinions about different, issues within rock and within about some of the things that have been going on within this band and within just the scene in the last few years, and also a vision to the future. I mean, at the end, it's nothing more than just opinions, but I mean, hopefully, I think I said a few things that hopefully if some of them just get thinking about a few things, then at least that's something that's good.
Why would your music necessitate such a seminar, though?
Excuse me?
Why would your music necessitate such a seminar?
I don't think that it was Metallica's music directly that necessitated the seminar. I think it was, I mean, I think that it was not a Metallica thing, it was just a general thing. And me being, I think one of the few people in hard rock and so forth that actually don't mind talking about it, and that, I mean, I do like talking and can talk about it for a bit and so forth. So I was invited to do this thing, and they had journalists come over from the UK and so forth. They had Masa representing Japan, and we sat there and talked sort of three different viewpoints on some of the same issues. And I don't really think it wasn't an exercise in anything specific about Metallica. It was more general.
Seems like, obviously this is a subject that's been beaten to death,
right.
But
only about the new video.
No. That's gonna come later. We'll tell you all about the new video. Metal has sort of come into its own, and it's got its own category at the Grammys now. I suppose things couldn't be better for you guys because you're no longer outsiders. Now you're sort of an accepted part of the establishment.
Well, yeah, I mean I think that's fine to say, but
you and Jeff are told it.
Obviously, but I think it's important to note that it was not Metallica wanting to be accepted by anybody and Metallica changing specifically their ways to try and get acceptance by its peers or by people in business or anything like that. It was all these people that opened up to what Metallica had been doing for the last few years, and that's why the acceptance doesn't bother me. If I thought that it was a premeditated thing where we have gone out of our way to change specific things, then obviously I wouldn't feel right about it. But what's so satisfying about it, and where I think it stands its own ground, is because we have stood our own situation firmly. And I mean, obviously there's been changes within the band, but they've been natural changes, and it just sort of followed whatever instinctive direction we wanted to go. But it's a case of people opening up to Metallica, and that's why I think it's so satisfying. That's why I think it's worth it, honestly.
The time's catching up with you.
I think people are, I'm not sure time catching up is the right phrase. I think it's just more people opening up for Metallica. I think it's a better way to start to, give Metallica a chance to, listen to the records and finally just start accepting Metallica on Metallica's terms.
The subject of the PMRC was brought up.
Yeah.
And PMRC exists to kind of quash metal, kind of put controls on it.
Well, that's not an entirely true statement. And the PMRC thing, which I don't really want to talk about. I mean, I'll talk about my feelings about it, but what they do is they were trying for a few years ago to get rock records rated.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
And not specific thrash metal.
Yeah, right.
It's kind of a hard statement. But they were trying to get rock records rated the same way that we've been doing with movies for years.
Right, exactly. Okay, so we got that down first of all. the PMR, none of he thought was that he saw a certain contradiction in terms here. Like, for example, the roots of rock are in rebellion, anti-establishment types of point of view. You said last night something about how it was important that your music act as sort of a bond, a tie, so that kids can adjust a little bit better to their own situation.
Huh?
I think he got it wrong.
Never say something like
Yeah,
that.
I think he got it wrong.
No.
But I think his question was that you were mentioning how it's important for parents to understand their kids, right?
I was saying last night that I think
your music.
I would never say something like that, Evan. I was saying last night that I think the real issue here is not how harmful listening to a Metallica record or any kind of other record is, and that it's unfortunate that in America they always try and shift the blame from, say, the parents. If they have a bad relationship with their kids, will sort of point the finger at the bands that the kids listen to for escapism and stuff like that. Instead of, I think the real issue is the relationship between the kids and the parents, and try to get them communicating, or try for the parents to talk more to the kids and vice versa, try to understand each other better, that the parents should understand and maybe be more open-minded about the kids' needs to maybe have a few hours a day to get lost in hard rock music, or have a few hours a day away from some of the things like school and work and stuff like that. And I think that it's just unfortunate that a lot of times it's always that lack of communication between the kids and the parents does not exist, and the parents just sort of start blaming all the things that the kids are into as the roots of all evil. That's the problem. The problem is not whether, Guns N' Roses or Metallica sing about. I mean, to me, that's, the lyric thing is, you know what I mean? The thing is, the kids and parents should start communicating, and those are the problems. A lot of times hard rock bands in America complain for, suicides and telling people to do certain things in their lyrics. People sit and try and find messages and all this crap. I mean, they should be much more concerned with trying to talk to each other, instead of blaming the rock bands for, telling the kids to kill themselves, because obviously a kid wouldn't kill himself if he had a good situation going with people around him.
But does that have anything to do with the times now? Is that like a constant thing?
In America, it's a pretty general source of. It's only in America, and it's something that goes on up there. It's just something that, yes, it's you have certain situations that always arise where there are lawsuits and stuff like that. There's a specific thing at the moment where someone is suing Judas Priest. Little milk, yeah. Someone is suing Judas Priest right now because they were listening to a Judas Priest album and then shot themselves in the head and stuff like that. And I mean, obviously, someone who had a good sort of relationship going with the people around him, and especially maybe a good, solid, understanding relationship with their parents, wouldn't shoot themselves in the head. And then it's too bad that the parents then try and shift the blame from themselves over to like the last band that was, in the cassette deck before the guy shot himself.
So that's how it tied in with the PMRC then.
Well, I mean, we're talking about it. We're generalizing here. The PMRC and certain other groups. I mean, we're covering a large, amount of ground here. But the PMRC was basically the first group of people in America that started pointing fingers at hard rock for, bad influences and all this stuff, along with certain. But the PMRC was a group that was put together to try and bring some of these things into a public debate. And then, when it was in public debate in all the newspapers and so forth, then it started like a snowball rolling, and other, parents, and wait a minute, maybe there's a quick block here to sue this band for, this guy losing his hearing. I mean, it just sort of snowballed and got really out of hand. So I think the PMRC, as much as it stands for the Parents Music Resource Center, and it is a group comprised of a few people in Washington that are trying to get rock records rated in the same way of movies. But like I said, it's a far more outreaching thing, and I think the PMR thing is maybe slightly misunderstood. I mean, the PMRC thing is only a little drop in the big ocean of trying to get censorship and religious right-wing fanatics blaming hard rock and things like that for all the evils in the world and all this crap.
Let me get something straight here. You said you were like trying to provide the kids with sort of a respite, from the daily routine, maybe for a couple hours.
No, I'm not saying that we are doing that. I'm saying that we I'm not saying us. I mean, I'm generalizing. I'm saying sometimes, you know, if I'm saying that hard rock or any music or any cultural activities are often used as an escape vehicle away from some of the sort of daily rituals that people go through, whether it be work 8 hours a day or school or homework or whatever. But sometimes you can sort of just shrug all that off your shoulders and go lose yourself in a pair of headphones or whatever. I'm not sitting here being that specific, saying Metallica provides 2 hours every day of I mean, it's not like that. I'm just saying, I'm generalizing.
Yeah, right.
It's very
You're
important.
one of many different things.
Yeah, I'm saying that, you know, it's, you know, that, you know, music, be it hard rock or pop or rap or anything, just offers for a lot of kids a chance to get away from it all for a couple hours. And I think that for a lot of people, you know, it's an escapism, you know.
Right. But he was just saying that, for example, you got other people in the rock world or pop world or whatever who have aspirations a little more grand, like somebody like a Sting who goes out and tries to deal with the rainforest problem.
Yeah, that's fine.
Basically kind of a 24-hour occupation.
Yeah.
Trying to affect social change.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, just because, I mean, if you don't want to change the rainforest, doesn't mean that it's not a 24-hour occupation. It's still, I don't, first of all, like the word occupation much, but I mean, it's still a 24-hour day thing, period. Now, there are different approaches to this whole thing, and, you know, some people are interested in using music as a vehicle to try and get certain things achieved, either for themselves or politically or socially or, you know, with all this shit outside, you know, and nature and all this stuff. And then there are other bands that are just sort of, I mean, we don't have any specific grand, you know, things like that. We want to play our music, and that's really basically about it. We didn't form a band to, you know, save the whales or anything like that. We formed a band because we wanted to play the kind of music that we're playing and basically do the things associated with that, which is the sort of social thing where, you know, you're a bunch of guys that have fun and do things together and so forth, which is the reason I started the band in 1981. And I feel some of those attitudes are very much intact within this band. It's not businessmen dressed up as musicians. It's not, there's no underlying secrets while we're doing this. It's purely for the fun and enjoyment of the music and what comes and goes around with that stuff. And we're not preachers, we're not politicians, we have our opinions, we have our views on a lot of things. I don't want to use Metallica as a vehicle to get them across. We write about lyrically certain things that a lot of people find, I think, has a slightly more substance than a lot of the other hard rock bands. We write about some of the things that we see around us in the real world, some of the things that, you know, deal with sometimes political issues and social issues and stuff like that. But it is possible, I think, to write about these things and wanting to be interested in them without wanting to change any of it. So it's more sort of like an outsider's view looking in without necessarily wanting to march up and down the street with a sign saying, you know, save the whales or anything like that. So, I mean, I just think it's, or, you know, we are just doing it that way, that we're sort of interested in what goes on, and it's possible to write about these things without necessarily wanting to change them. But I mean, first and foremost for us, it's just the music and what surrounds and what goes on. You know, like I said, some people get into music for different reasons. Some people get into music to get laid, you know, some people get in because they can get cheap drugs, or some people get in because they can, you know, preach some of their personal beliefs into magazines and the media and so forth. And then we just got this whole thing going because of the love for the music and the excitement and the whole thing that music creates.
Well, I'm sure the same is true with, like, you know, a Sting. Obviously, you got into it, you know, for the love of the music, and that was the original motivation.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's not. I'm very much generalizing here, and I'm just saying that, you know, if he wants to take his high profile in music and try and achieve something politically or socially with it, I mean, I think that's great. But I'm saying that's not what we're interested in. So, you know, I mean, more power to him. I mean, if you can use, you know, your high-profile image to, you know, get people to listen to you, I think that's fine. But, you know, that's not what we're interested in. You know what I mean? I prefer to be more, I prefer to be more low-key about it, that's all. You know, I mean, I have my personal beliefs on all these issues, too, and I don't want to use Metallica as a vehicle to get them across. You know, if I wanted to do that, I'd get into politics.
Is there any reason why you don't?
Personal attitude. I don't see being in a song, being in a band and playing music and writing songs has anything to do with why I should sit and talk about what I think about rainforests in Brazil or not. I mean, if I wanted to do that, like I said, I get into politics.
Mm-hmm. One reason you mentioned the PMRC a while ago there was it's quite an intriguing situation. The PMRC is sort of infringing on freedom of expression, and they try to label the records. But he says the intriguing aspect is that if it weren't for the fact that metal has become such a powerful medium, has become such an expressive medium, they wouldn't be taking issue with it in the first place.
Yeah, I can't do anything but agree with that. I mean, obviously that's right. That's more an observation that, I mean, you gotta understand that hard rock and metal is a very, very easy target because it's so full of cliches. I mean, it's so full of these just really stupid cliches that a lot of bands really sort of really exploit to the fullest, to a manner which it gets really stupid and boring and sickening. And it is a real easy target, yes. So it's also, you know, heavy metal has always been the sort of, I think, the laughing stock of music in general. You know, it's sort of like the black sheep of the family, kind of like all these smelly long-haired guys go out and sing about, you know, getting laid all night. I mean, you know, so what? But I mean, you gotta still remember that, I mean, for millions of people all over the world, it provides, like we talked about earlier, a sense of escapism and so forth. But I mean, I can't really say much more than agree with what he's saying, that obviously it's really easy to point the finger, and obviously because there's so much money and so much, just, yeah, like so many resources involved with it. I mean, it's real easy to try and milk it for whatever it's worth. I mean, there's a mentality which is unfortunate, is you know, people always try and sort of just milk other people's pleasures for what they can. Sometimes, you know, you get a situation where people get sort of I think maybe inside, like maybe a little jealous. You know, you can't let other people indulge in their own kind of fun. You know, if they're having more fun than you are, then you have to bother them and try and stop them or something. You know what I mean? So I mean, it's a weird thing. It really is.
I don't know if that's a part of that. Don't you think that people feel more threatened? I think if they just want to interfere with people's fun, there's all kinds of things they can.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to sit and speculate what the real issues are. I mean, I heard, you know, I heard one argument, which, I mean, I'm going to say the argument, I'm not going to comment on it, I think it's true or not, but one reason this woman wrote this book called, you know, Chipper Gore wrote this book to try and get some of these thoughts across and so forth, which also tied in very well with her husband were running for president at the same time. So, I mean, you never know what the real reasons are, and I think that it's not really, I can't sit and speculate on, because I mean, each specific case, I think, probably has maybe different underlying reasons, you know, but it's just interesting that, you know, that he was running for president at the same time. It's just, some of these things tie in kind of funny.
But why not, like, single out, you know, the Nightmare on Elm Street series, or why not single out professional wrestling or something equally as...
Sure, yeah.
But why metal, though? I think that's what he's trying to get at. He's saying it's become a very expressive medium.
Well, like I said, I mean, I think I already said as much as I can. Like, it's so full of cliches. It's, I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's something that I think is an easy target. That's all. I think that people for years have been trying this thing with movies and just, you know, realizing. Thank you. I mean, the whole movie thing is a lot more mainstream. I mean, the same people that sit and point fingers at hard rock and metal will go see, you know, Sylvester Stallone blow up 7,000 Russians in half an hour. So I mean, it's kind of difficult for them to sit and point the finger at Rambo 13, you know, because they indulge in that themselves. But there are very few of these people that indulge themselves much in the new Venom album or something like that. So it's an easier target.
He says, do you think there's a lot of people these days are pigeonholing you? Well, bands as diverse as Metallica, Poison, and Def Leppard, you're being pigeonholed in the same category.
Right.
That must seem like, you know, utter nonsense to you.
I'm really not that concerned about. I've always tried to talk about the media and in interviews and stuff, and I mean, my personal beliefs are that these differences in categories are something that's, I think, a lot more up to each individual people to figure out. And I think for the media, for me to sit and say, well, we do this and these guys do this, and there's nothing that bonds us. You know, I mean, what's happening in America, for instance, at the moment is that, you know, which I found out in the last 6 months, is that you go out and, you know, you play 150 arena shows in the U.S. It's what we're doing. You know, you play what's called the arena circuit, and you play, you know, Raleigh, North Carolina. You have 12,000 people there. You know, but when we have 12,000 people at a Metallica gig, you know, 9 of those 12,000 people are also at the Poison gig the week before, or the Bon Jovi gig the day after. So at the end of the day, there comes a point where you can't just say that it's these people and these people, because, you know, there are people that cross over and that don't just worry about all these categories and barriers that everyone says up. And personally, I have absolutely nothing against a band like Def Leppard or Poison whatsoever. They do their thing, we do ours, and there's room for everybody. I'm not going to sit and say that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's you know, 4 people with a bunch of instruments, and they take it in this direction and we take it in that direction. That doesn't mean that there isn't a gray area in here where we have certain things in common.
You don't seem to set yourself apart from the other so-called metal bands by approaching more serious subject matter. So I feel like, you know, all the connections. Yeah. That's an accurate observation.
Yeah, very much. I mean, like I said earlier, we're just a lot more interested in writing about some of the things we see around us, real issues, real things. Some of the things that fascinate us about what's going on in the real world, instead of trying to paint this huge, you know, make pretend picture about how great everything is and so forth. I mean, we're not trying to be negative. We're just writing about how we see certain things, and you know, we're not, like I said earlier, we're not trying to preach or trying to force any opinions or anything down anyone's throats. I mean, these are just the way we see it. It's a lot more fun to try and not always write about the obvious. I mean, the obvious and this kind of stuff is always writing about girls and drugs and fast cars, or writing about, you know, Satanism and all this other garbage. And it's just a lot more of a challenge and a lot more fun to just try and write about some things that are maybe slightly more, you know, have more substance, or just, or it's more of a, you know, when we write songs and we put everything together, the way I see it, it's like a challenge. It's something you do for fun and stuff like that. It's not, you know, work or anything. I mean, it's fun, and it's just a lot more fun to try and come up with some different things. And I think Metallica has always just tried to separate itself from as many of the heavy metal cliches as possible. It's something that we just always try to sort of sway around most of these cliches, because a lot of them are really boring and really stupid. And I'm not saying that we're God's gift to originality or anything. I'm just saying that we just try as much as we can to avoid falling into some of the cliche traps that other bands fall into. That's all.
Do you ever find yourself slipping into ones?
Well, I mean, you know, I mean, it's already a cliche to begin with, isn't it? I mean, an electric guitar and a drum kit. I mean, it's, you know what I mean? It just, I mean, obviously, you know, yeah, you do once in a while. I mean, but I'm just saying that we try and in the areas where we can avoid. You know, I mean, it depends what you. I mean, it depends where you set the limit on cliches. Like, say, forming a band to begin with, isn't that a cliche? You know what I mean? I mean, it depends. You know what you term cliches. I'm just saying that we try and avoid some of the sort of more general, upfront metal cliches, like some of the visual approach that a lot of people have with, you know, looking like females and all this stuff, or singing about. I mean, the whole sexism thing and all that, which is one of the overdone, boring cliches. And the other thing, which is, you know, the whole Satanism, religious, occult crap that a lot of people involve themselves in. I mean, I'm not against it for religious reasons. I'm just against it because it's a boring, stupid, silly cliche, and that's it.
Is it a matter of you dealing with a wider variety of subject matter now that you're a bigger band? Is that added to your horizons?
No, I don't think selling records or anything like that has to do with it. I think what has to do with it is getting more, getting slightly, obviously older, more experienced, just getting a bit more maybe open-minded and so forth. I think if you look at the last 3 records, each of them have a general theme, and then we usually go in different directions. The Ride the Lightning album dealt a lot with different aspects of death, fear of death, thoughts about death inside people's minds and so forth. Master of Puppets album dealt a lot with different aspects of manipulation, being addicted to different things, people control, stuff like that, different forms of manipulation and so forth. And the Justice album deals a lot with different things of honesty, truth, justice, different opinions on rights and wrongs and stuff like that. And I just think each of those just reflect a lot of our thoughts and our attitudes. An album is a time statement, and this, you say basically this album reflects what went on in this period, 1984, and let's see what happens in the future. But I really don't know it. But I don't think whether you sell 3 million records like we've done in the last year or not has anything to do with which way your attitudes take you. Mm-hmm. But it could be. That's not something I really thought much into. Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
I suppose the situation you're in will change the subject matter you deal with.
Well, yeah. The mere fact that there's usually about 3 years between each of our albums, and we're all in our 20s and so forth. You go through a lot of growing up and just understanding more and stuff like that when you lead this kind of lifestyle, traveling and meeting people and just getting older and stuff like that. So I'm sure it'll be very different next time around too.
The subject matter is rather diverse, but one thing he does notice is that there seems to be a common thread running through it. You guys seem to have a preoccupation with sort of the darker side of humanity, manipulation, evil.
Evil.
But you said various views on right and wrong.
Well, I don't think we try and push any specific right or wrong. I think what we try and push is that different people have different views on rights and wrongs. There's a song on the new album called Eye of the Beholder, which deals with, just the first line is, do you see what I see? Which means that basically, what is right to me and what I see with these eyes, your eyes could see something different and obviously, give you a different opinion about things. And I'm just saying that what we're talking about is more that it's too bad that there are people that sort of enforce that only their views are the right ones and don't let other people have their own opinions and stuff like that. I really think that it's saying that we have a preoccupation with the darker sides of humanity is pushing it, I think, one step too far. I think that we just, a lot of people go, our lyrics are very, one word I hear a lot is negative, another word I hear is, the other word is sort of like grim or things like that. Right. And I don't necessarily look at it like that. I think there's more just, if that's the way it comes out, then that's a reflection of what we see. We're not any specifically more negative people than the other guy down the street or the guy in Bon Jovi or the guy in Motley Crue or anything like that. It's just that when we choose to write songs, these are the things that we choose to write about, and we're not any specific more grim-faced than any other people. We have a lot of fun, but it's just when it comes to writing songs, those are the things that we write about. But
the original question: why do you think that was you guys? Why did that come to the surface? That outlook. You want to point the finger at something that.
No, I've said it already. These are the things that we just write about. A lot of it, I think, just deals with certain just aspects of some fear, like a lot of fear in a lot of the lyrics and a lot of.
So that's what it's saying, like a fear or manipulation.
Well, I think darker sides of humanity, that's stretching it a little bit. And I also heard the word evil in there. That's one word that I really like to stay away from, because I like to think that there's much more than just. There's much more to everything than just saying good or evil. Do you know what I mean? So that's something that I really don't think rings true. The best way I can describe it is we look around and see certain things around us and we just write about it.
The Grammy nomination for Best Heavy Metal Band. Mm-hmm. You said that you were rather pleased by it. First of all, what's the significance of that, of being nominated for you?
It's not something that's going to change the world. It's something that's. I don't think so much the Grammy nomination itself was as significant as the mere fact that we were invited to perform on the show. That, I think, was the cool thing. Whether the nomination and the category and winning or losing it, I think at the end of the day, it's fairly insignificant, but playing on the show and then finally opening up to hard rock and metal and taking a band, it would have been a lot easier for them to take a Bon Jovi or Cinderella or Def Leppard than sort of take the easy way out, but instead they went even further to the left and took a band like Metallica on there. I think that was cool. It was a great opportunity for us to go out and do our thing in front of a lot of people and so forth, and hopefully clear up a few misconceptions about both Metallica and about metal in general. I mean, other than that, it was just a great opportunity to just go out and obviously reach more people. I mean, to say no to it, I mean, would obviously be a very, it's like, would you like to perform in front of, 30 billion people? It's like, sure. You know what I mean? So,
did you see it as just a big gig, or did you think there's significance in the fact that it is the Grammys?
I think it was the mere fact, like I said, that the very sort of out of touch and rather conservative academy finally opened up and sort of really sort of caught on with what's going on around it instead of being stuck back in the 60s or something. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I think that was cool, and I think that, like I said, it was a good chance to just reach a lot of people.
It wasn't kind of absurd that it took them this long to catch on, though? She had herself.
Well, I mean, that's not a good enough reason to turn it down. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't say, well, it's taking them this long, so fuck you, we're not going to play. I mean, that's not good enough.
No, I didn't suggest it, actually. It came from you spontaneously.
Yeah.
So that crossed your mind.
No. I mean, you're saying it was not absurd that it took it this long.
It took that long. Yeah.
Sure, it's absurd, but I mean, you can say yes, it's absurd. It's taking you this long. Yes, it's absurd that you choose to that the category would go to someone who peaked in 1972 when most of the people that buy today's hard rock metal weren't even born. Yeah, that's absurd. But at the same time, I mean, you gotta. In a very ultra-conservative situation, I mean, when there's light at the end of the tunnel, you should encourage it, you know what I mean?
Well, that's a very open-minded way of thinking of it.
Yeah.
You're very flexible. Territory?
I just prefer to be open about shit like that.
Mm-hmm. Were there any other guys in the band who said fuck them?
No.
No? Really? All right.
Well, maybe fuck him for being 15 years out of touch, but not fuck him, we won't go and make the most of this situation.
Huh. Yeah.